Welcome to Girl Choose Yourself, where we're trading self-doubt for self-trust and settling for soaring. I'm Mami Wata, your host, and together we're building the confidence to create lives so deliciously bold that they scare us a little, but in the best possible way. Because life's too precious to stay cozy in our comfort zones. It's time to choose ourselves for lives that are fabulous and soulfully fulfilling. So let's go. Hey, and welcome back. Today, we're going to go back in time, but not just back in time, but also deeper within. And I'm going to be sharing some perhaps forgotten, definitely buried feminine wisdom. 3 ancient teachings. They're from powerful, overlooked feminine figures, of which there are many, but I'm just choosing 3 that are really important to me and that I have learned a lot from these teachings. One of them, the first one in particularly, surprised me. And I want to share them with you today in the hopes that you will similarly gain a lot from them. And there are 3 lessons from 3 teachings, and I'm going to share 3 practices with you along the way. So hopefully you're going to come away from today's episode with not just new information, because let's face it, we live in a world of information overload, and I know that it can be overwhelming. And I think I know in myself, there's a deep ache and seeking for truth and wisdom and something that will resonate at the level of my soul and nourish me from within. That's what I'm looking for in my journey in this life. And I'm humbly offering these little nuggets to you today in the hope that they will serve you on your journey. I'm going to start with, I guess, lesson number 1, which I'm calling, we are not here to be good. We are not here to be good. I'm going to introduce you to a woman called Lilith. And she appears in various ancient texts. And I only learned about her in the last week. So maybe you are like me and this will be completely new for you. So she appears in these various texts, including the Babylonian Talmud and later in Jewish mysticism, particularly in the Kabbalistic tradition. In early Mesopotamian myths, she was known as a winged spirit associated with the wind and storms. She was often feared, but also deeply respected. And by the time of the Hebrew Bible, Lilith was written out or demonized, depicted as a threat to the patriarchal order. But who was Lilith? Well, according to medieval Jewish folklore, Lilith was Adam's, as in Adam and Eve, Adam's first wife, created from the same earth as Adam, the same clay, equal in substance and stature. So not from the rib. But she refused to be subservient to him. She insisted on equality. And when denied, she chose exile over obedience, leaving Eden. And she became a symbol of feminine autonomy and rebellion. While later retellings really cast her as the seductress, that's new, or the demon, feminist scholars have now reclaimed Lilith as the original woman who said, not for me. That's not good enough for me. Thanks very much, but no thanks. So I love Lilith, If you look closely, she's the original woman who said, I will not shrink myself to fit your idea of who you think I am. And now as we fast forward today, how many of us are still trying to be good? I talked about this in the book, my latest book, Choose Yourself. This idea of the good girl, be good. And it's being a good wife, isn't it? Being a good mother. Oh, sweet Lord, any of us who are mothers, being a good mother. Impossible. Impossible. External expectations. Good employees, good girls. Even when it's killing our joy, even when it means, biting our tongue or saying yes when our whole body is screaming no. And I think it's because I know I have sort of mistaken being good or goodness for being safe, for approval and belonging. But goodness is really often just compliance in nice clothing. I had a recent example of this just yesterday. A lovely woman in my orbit who does an awful lot of work in one of my children's schools, and I've helped out on a few occasions. And she contacted me to say, hey, your name came up as somebody who might be interested in being the parent class representative for next year for your daughter's class. And immediately my body was screaming, hell no. And I was like a little bit paralyzed, going, I know it's a no, but what will she think of me? And it's there, it's there, and it creeps up on us in different situations, can trigger it. And then we kind of say yes when our whole body is screaming no. And just for the record, I said no, very politely, and thanking her for thinking of me. But it was a no. It was a no. I wasn't going to, it was a no. And I let go of, I released whatever opinion she would like to hold of me that belonged to her. So the lesson, we're not here to be good, in inverted commas. We all know what that means. Living up to the expectations of what other people think we should be, how we should behave. And so here's the practice for this first lesson. Today I want you to start noticing where you're choosing good over true. Just in one place, in one moment, just noticing, where am I choosing to be good, in inverted commas, rather than really true to myself? Perhaps there's a conversation that you're avoiding because it might rock the boat. Yeah? Perhaps you're saying yes to the kind of request that I got when your whole body is saying, no, that's not for me. Maybe there's an apology that you keep making that's actually not yours to give. Yeah. You're not here to be good. Choose to say something real instead of something nice, even if it's just to yourself. Yeah? So let's move from the voice that said no to the voice inside you that perhaps has been whispering for years. Let's move on to lesson number 2, the voice inside you that is older than you think. Here's a thought that I come back to often, which is really at the core of this lesson. What if my intuition isn't new? What if my intuition, I'm 55 years old now, what if my intuition is older than 55 years? What if my intuition is ancient? You know that deep knowing that you sense in your gut? Maybe you trust it, maybe you don't. But I don't believe it's random. I believe it's ancient. It's ancestral. I want to introduce you to some characters, some individuals from myth and from history. And the first one is Irish, Celtic mythology, and it's called the Cailleach. And the Cailleach is the crone goddess of winter storms and mountains. And her name means the veiled one. And she is ancient. She is said to have shaped the landscape of Scotland and Ireland with her hammer. This solitary figure, she's not associated with beauty or submission. She's this old woman, but with power and transformation and truth. And she appears in a lot of seasonal myths where she relinquishes power to the maiden goddess Brigid in spring, and there's a cycle of wisdom giving way to growth. So she's the mythical female figure who is strong and basically shapes the land with her bare hands. Then you have a West African tradition, which is Mami Wata. Mami Wata is a water deity revered across the continent and amongst the African diaspora. And she's often portrayed as this beautiful mermaid or serpent woman. And she's sensual, wise, spiritually potent. She governs dreams, intuition, fertility, healing. And she blesses those who honor their inner voice. So this really powerful female figure that's revered in the African culture. And then there's a woman called Hildegard of Bingen, who was a 12th century Christian mystic, a composer and a healer. And she claimed that she was receiving sort of divine visions from her childhood, from as early as her childhood. She wrote extensively about the feminine face of God, which she calls Sophia, and the greening force of life, called Viriditas, and writing also about the natural world being really sacred. And though she was silenced by the church for a time, of course she was, her work has survived, and it's, had a resurgence in the centuries since. Like, that's back in the 11th century. This deep wisdom, knowing, spiritual connection to intuition, power, with a feminine face and a feminine voice. So across cultures, you've had these feminine figures emphasizing the primacy of intuition. And they're kind of a reminder that this inner knowing, this gut feeling, it's not fluff. It's really legacy. It's really a deep truth. And we're living in a society that really just exalts a very masculine sense of logic, dismisses instinct. And women are often taught as a result to override this gut instinct. And I think that's a huge mistake. It's like cutting off your most vital source of knowing, your most powerful source. So it's not, I don't believe intuition is random. I think it's inherited, it's ancestral, it's ancient. And when it's honored, it becomes, a guiding force that's more powerful than anything else. Than any bloody productivity hack or any algorithm. Really, the source is within. And I think it's a lesson that's particularly important for those of us women in midlife who begin to feel like this quiet, I don't know, for me it was like a disconnection, a dissonance, that feeling of like, is this it? Like, is this all there is? And that deep down there's something more, there has to be something more. And as you look around, maybe you're seeing a life that's been built very much on, around shoulds and obligations. And, there's a time for meeting our obligations and being of service to other people, particularly for us mothers. But there comes a time when it's like, okay, now me. And the voice inside you is not just your own. It's not just your own. It's a whisper of every woman's wisdom who has come before you. If we dare to listen, we can really tap into something, a wealth beyond measure. So let me just say this. If you have a quiet pull, a flicker of knowing within you, or even much clearer message, like a full body, yes, this just feels so right and I can't explain it. Listen. Even if no one else gets it, especially if no one else gets it, trust that. So here's a practice for this lesson. Lesson 2, the voice inside you is older than you think and so wise. So here's your practice. Each day this week, I want you to ask yourself this one question. Here's the question. What am I pretending not to know? What am I pretending not to know? And let whatever comes up, come up. Like no editing, no justifying. Let it come out. And that might be for you if you meditate or you just ground yourself with some breaths and being in a quiet place of low or no distraction, where you ask that question inwardly. You might say it out loud or just pose it to yourself inwardly and let the answer come. Or if you prefer to journal, you might like to write this question and then almost like automatic write what comes up. Even if it makes no bloody sense at the time, just let your hand flow. And it's better to do it with a pen rather than typing. Okay. Now I want to talk about something we all carry, quietly, often alone, and that's pain. So this is lesson 3. Like our pain is not personal. In Buddhism, suffering is just viewed as part of the deal of being human, of life, of this incarnation in this physical form. It's not a sign that you're broken, it's a sign that you're alive. But if you're anything like me, you've probably thought at some point, why am I still struggling with this? Why can't I get it together? Other people seem to have it together. Why not me? I want to introduce some feminine wisdom for you. Let me introduce you to Dipa Ma. She was an Indian meditation teacher, and she was one of the first female masters of the Theravada Buddhist lineage. So she came to meditation after immense personal loss. She had lost a child. The child's name was actually Dipa, and she lost her husband. And she fell into a deep physical illness, depression, and she was advised to seek a spiritual salve, a spiritual medicine for the pain that she was in. And so she undertook an intensive mindfulness practice, and she not only healed herself, but she became a really powerful teacher of compassion and presence. And she taught housewives, she taught mothers, she taught working women, and she really broke the mold of who spiritual seekers could be. She wrote a book, from memory, I have it on my nightstand, I think it's called Pure and Simple. Many of the great Western teachers that maybe you've heard of, and one of my teachers, Jack Cornfield, traveled to India to learn from her. Joseph Goldstein, Sharon Salzberg, old students of Dipa Ma. She was never a nun. She never didn't have to go off to a monastery. She achieved deep levels of awakening very quickly. There are even stories that she didn't talk about a lot, but other people spoke of, where she reached heights of incredible powers, where she would walk through walls. And I don't know if you believe in that sort of thing, that that's possible. That wasn't something that Dipa Ma talked about, but it was known about her. Then there's Pema Chödrön, who may be a much more familiar name to you, as Pema has written so many books. She's a Tibetan Buddhist nun and a teacher, and she brought the teachings of Trungpa Rinpoche into the Western female body, and her work, especially in When Things Fall Apart, emphasizes befriending fear and suffering. Pain is not personal. Sitting in discomfort without trying to fix it. Pain is a normal part of a human life. not something to be resisted, run away from, but to be with and to befriend. And then there's Quan Yin, the bodhisattva of compassion in Chinese Buddhism. So bodhisattva just means a fully enlightened being. And she is often depicted holding a vase of healing water and listening to the cries of the world. Maybe you've never seen Quan Yin and you've just seen sort of statues or representations of the Buddha. But this is sort of the feminine side of this tradition, and she is a feminine embodiment of mercy, and she offers comfort not by removing pain, but again by being present with it. So when we think about, we live in a culture that's obsessed sometimes with positivity and optimization, and pain is often pathologized. There's something wrong with you, right? And we're taught that suffering means that we're failing, or worse, that we're broken. There's something wrong. And these female wisdom figures, Dipa Ma, Pema Chödrön, Quan Yin, they offer another way. They teach that pain is not personal. It's not a personal defect. It's a portal. And when you can sit with it without judgment, without story, and allow, it becomes a place of deep transformation. Many women in midlife, there's many years that we've lived, many experiences, many relationships, many fractured relationships, maybe many disappointments, and many women in midlife are often carrying an almost invisible grief. What they gave up, who they had to be, the losses that no one saw or recognized. And this lesson really reframes that pain, not as a weakness, but as part of the universal human experience. We're all in this together. It's not a flaw to hide. It's not a flaw to hide. It's a thread that connects us all. I think we shame ourselves for hurting sometimes. I should just get on with it. This is self-indulgent. Other people have it harder. Maybe they do. We shame ourselves for not bouncing back from a disappointment quick enough. Here's what I've learned. It's not personal. Pain's universal. And the moment you stop treating it like a character flaw, it's the moment that you can start to heal. So here's a practice. Start here. Finish this sentence. What I still carry is. And let it be honest. Maybe it's grief that never got air, never got space, never got recognized. Maybe it's rage that you swallowed. This was my big area, rage. Maybe it's something about a dream that you quietly let go of. Maybe you're carrying something there. Naming it doesn't make you weak. It just makes you real. What I still carry is. So these teachings, Lilith's refusal, the Cailleach's knowing, Dipa Ma's compassion, they're not metaphors, they're really mirrors. They reflect back parts to us, that were never lost, they were just buried. They're there and they're buried. And I guess my message to you, my invitation to you is to maybe dig a little deeper and see what may be buried, because I believe that there is immense power that's just behind the veil. It's buried a little. Maybe that's the real work of midlife, I know that I've used the term a lot, like hashtag midlife reinvention, but maybe it's really a return. Maybe that's the truer description. It's a return. And it's definitely not about doing more. Sweet God, who needs more on their to-do list? Maybe it's more becoming more you, becoming more of who you truly are. It's a beingness. So my invitation is simple. Don't just hear these 3 lessons. Just open up to them. See which one has moved you most, that feels most for you. Maybe something even felt like it was soul-piercingly important and true for you. Pick the one that stirred something in you and start there. Truth, intuition, compassion. It's really the path home to yourself, to ourselves. The deep truth of who we are. And we are really everything. Everything. So if you want to share with me what landed most, just message me, emer@emerzone.com. I'll read every one. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, just choose yourself again and again and again. Thanks so much for tuning into the episode this week. I hope you got a lot out of it, and if you did, please share it with somebody who you feel would benefit. And leave a review. Always greatly appreciated. Lots of free and paid resources to take things a step further. You can find those in the show notes. And hey, if nobody's told you this yet today, you are amazing. And the world is a far more beautiful place because you're here with us all. Stay cool. Bye.